Stu. Have you got women?
Karting is a very niche sport at the best of times. If you bring it up in conversation, most people think you're on about that team sport indoor milk float racing with no concept of grassroots racing. So you'd be forgiven for thinking a grid of retro historic karts from 30 plus years ago would be all but forgotten. Well, that's where you're wrong. Clay's the Masters is an annual charity event in aid of Teenage Cancer Trust, and the last couple of years boasting entries of anywhere between 50 and 60 plus karts. Now the format for this event is slightly different. Rather than being categorised by their respective homologation periods of pre-95 and pre-2000, karts will be divided up by the type of engine they're running. Formula Super A is for karts with a rotary engine and a slide carb, whereas ICA is for reed valve engines. The latter of which is the one I'm going to be competing in with my Pirelli TT75, which is a pre-95 motor. And with it being our season opener, it's time for us to get prepared. Good morning everyone. You join me on this absolutely glorious spring day, and that can mean only one thing, that the race season is just around the corner. So with that in mind, we've got a bit of work to do ahead of the Clay's the Masters event next weekend, and quite a few bits of change on the 1994 right you see behind me. So let me take you through them. So first and foremost, we've got some new bodywork, as this old stuff is starting to split. This nose cone was actually kindly donated to me for free by Liam Hamlin, so thank you to him for that. It got us out of trouble, it matched the rest of our bodywork, but yeah, it's a bit beaten up. We'll still use this and retain this for practice, but for the racing we want a nice clean new one, and something a bit more. The same is true of our side pods. These are obviously plastic, so they are bound to crack and split. So you'll see around here, this is starting to split quite dramatically now. This was held in with a cable tie, but it's got even worse since then, so better safe than sorry. We're going to replace this too. Now you'll know at Rye House I fitted a easy start wheel, which is prone to riding up and actually fouling on the axle, as you can see from the marks here. So what I've actually done is I've replaced the standard clamps from Dartford Karting and got some U-bolts here that won't ground out on the track, and hopefully a bit more rigid and sturdy. Now the biggest learning curve in these 100cc karts is learning the jetting and doing it based on feel and the sound of the engine, which can be problematic when you're missing an ear and the exhaust pipe is on the other side. So to take some of that guesswork out, we've installed this lovely cylinder head temperature sensor, which goes just underneath the spark plug. That'll give us the temperature so that we can set the high jet accordingly. And if the engine is getting too hot, then we increase the fuel flow in the high jet, just wind that out a bit. And if it's too cold, it's not warming up enough, then we can decrease the fuel flow. Right, I decided to replace my grubby red steering wheel with a grubby polka dot wheel. Another thing we've got, you may remember from our PFI video where I ended up nearly losing a wheel and the holes had elongated on the rim. That was actually because of these period hubs. Now they don't actually have a centering ring on it to keep the rim aligned properly. So I put a lot of extra strain on these studs, which obviously failed and had to be replaced. So I have bought a couple of, I think they're 3D printed centering rings or spigots or whatever you want to call them. So if you've been following for a while, you'll know that this time last year I bought this very kart 6 days before the biggest 100cc race in the country, and went on and raced it running myself with just one engine. Now if you know what these 100cc motors are like, you'll know that that is bordering on insanity, as they have a tendency to go pop, and I've learned my lesson. I've since acquired 2 more Pirelli TT75 motors, all of which are relatively fresh, so should be all good to go this time round. Now, one last finishing touch. It's time to decorate our new pods and bodywork ahead of the season. Now, I was contemplating getting a fully customised sticker kit set made up, But to be honest, I'm on a budget and I wanted to add weight but still have a little bit of creative flair to the kart. So I got a little bit of chrome red vinyl to complement the right. And to be fair, I think it turned out okay. I still plan to add some gold accents, but it's an improvement on the plain kart. And as you can see, after one test day, the kart is already filthy, especially in all the key areas around the chain and the bearing hangers. So we need to get cleaning before we can finish prep. And this is a prime example of why we always clean our karts after every test day. Now, this is something I've been monitoring for a while, but you can see my floor tray is starting to split and crack. So thankfully, I had a spare. Massive thank you to Andrew Everett for helping me out. But yeah, we were all set. Thursday morning, time to go collect our rental van. It was actually a new site and managed to get rather lost on the industrial estate. And Tilly the cat here, not letting me change my visor for the glorious sunshine, and what a change in weather from a couple of weekends ago. Tilly not so keen to see me leave, but time to get the kart. And the checklist for karting seems to be getting ever bigger by the day when it comes to packing. People just think, oh yeah, go-kart, chuck a couple of cans of fuel in, job done. But no. Right, we are all set. It's time to head to Clay. So we made it to glorious Costa del Yeovil late in the evening, and they say racing is glamorous. I mean, look at this hotel room view. But there was no rest for the wicked. Straight up early doors Friday morning to head to the track. Not before a quick stop off at Tesco, and we were there where Keith has already set up. Good morning. It is a beautiful day for the first day here at Clay's the Masters. I've just turned up. It's about 7:30. I've already broken the van, which is not ideal, but again, it is French. So yeah, we'll get set up. We've got all of our testing today, and then we go straight into qualifying at 4 p.m. and then our first heat race. So very, very busy day, lots to do. I'll keep you updated on how I get on. What a difference a couple of weeks makes. Glorious sunshine for race day here at the Masters, and we're all set up with Keith Evans on the spanners for us this weekend. Now, Keith is no stranger to retro racing, and hopefully he's going to direct us towards the sharp end. A few finishing touches to the car. We've got a new rear bumper, and then it was time to fit our brand new bodywork, and I think you'll agree it looks pretty sharp, especially in the early spring sunshine. But if you watch my last video, you'll know that there's always something to be doing on the car, and testing for the most part went fairly swimmingly. We had a new carb to try, a few other bits and pieces, and we ended up actually setting, and despite some minor niggles, we set our fastest ever lap at Clay Pigeon, despite being on our oldest set of tyres with a flat front right. All of this boded pretty well for time qualifying coming up.
Well, just say, somebody will always grab us if it don't start. So if it don't start and it stops, just don't panic. Just lean forward. Yeah, exactly.
Here we go then, timed qualifying for Clay's the Masters. 4 group sessions of 15 karts, so we all have space on track as we push off. I'm a sit-in princess this weekend, as now we've got the easy start wheel. Keith actually preferred it with me sat in the kart, so can't complain too much there as we head out on fresh boots. Just a 4-minute session, so we need to get on with it and make hay while the sun shines, as we've got Thomas Royal in front of us. Now we know from previous experience we're a little bit quicker than him, so we dispatch of him pretty quickly. And we've got Matt Martin up front. He should serve as a good benchmark for ourselves as we get barrels of understeer, just trying to take this initial layer off the tyre. But yeah, going into this session with plenty of confidence, setting my PB in practice, and that was actually on my oldest set of tyres, which probably done 3 days at least. So all to play for then, getting very sideways, still just a little bit slippery on this first flying lap, so going to take it a little bit easy just to make sure we don't overwork the front tyres, and just bring them in nice and gradually. Get a banker lap in. The soft tyres that are used in karting, we're on the Vega SL4s this weekend, and like most soft tyres, these have a very early performance peak, so it's usually lap 3 or 4 will be the best you get, and then after that there's a lot of degradation, especially on an abrasive circuit like Clay Pigeon as we go flat out into Billy's. Little bit of choke, chucking it into the first right hander, and there's a little bit of a push on the front end as we actually missed the chicane there. The initial feeling I'm getting in the kart is a little bit of understeer. And a very different handling to what we had just a couple of hours prior on the old tyres. Now, we did do some testing on a good set of tyres from the London Cup that had probably done a heat and a final. So we thought we should have a fairly representative balance going into quali, but that's not the case. But not to worry, we've still got plenty of time left in this session and a clear track ahead. Let's knuckle down, bring it as close to the curb as we can. We're still just a little bit shy of that inside curb, but we get a better run to the chicane on this lap, avoiding that nasty exit curb down towards the hairpin. Try to get it tucked in, use the camber of the road, run it all the way out to the outside, into the infield. Kart doesn't quite want to rotate mid-corner. Little bit of back end coming out around there, flat out through here. And then very quickly into this final corner, fairly calm on the wheel, so not too bad, not amazing, but that is a 34.8, so that's a okay banker to start with as we get sweet run, bit of momentum now, but we're going to catch this traffic at the worst possible time. Now, he didn't directly block us, but when you got a car just in your field of view, sort of wandering around on a very narrow section of the track where there's only one line, you naturally hesitate, and we did get out the throttle there, so that's going to cost us all the way down that straight. This lap is going to be no good. This lap is going in the bin, and we've gone a little bit wide through that final corner, so a bit scrappy on my behalf, but also we're struggling a little bit with the balance here, but we're going to give it another go. A little bit better, still missed the curb on entry, and then again we get a big understeer moment. Now we're a little bit wide, and I think we might have just touched the outside curb there. Going to cut a bit later in the session. Ben Yeomans goes flying down the inside. Now normally I would just tuck in and follow him because he's a pretty rapid driver, but he went so wide there that we didn't really have an awful lot of choices. He's going to go barreling down the inside of us into the hairpin. The 58 is going to follow through, so we just need to sort of recuperate here, just sort of regain our composure and try and use these guys as a marker, get a bit of slipstream. It's often easier to follow than it is to lead, especially on a big straightaway like this as we go onto our next lap now. So trying to see if we can put a clean lap together. Through the chicane it's a little better. We're staying with this 58 as we get on that exit curb. You don't want to go any more than that. Fairly strong on the brakes. A little bit of bouncing mid-corner there, a little bit of a hop as Matt Martin dives out of the way, and we get, not the ideal line on entry into the infield section. And then this last corner could have gone a little bit tighter there, but we're picking up the slipstream now as we're heading on to the next lap, and the 58 is going to slow suddenly. He's probably had enough, and that's going to unfortunately balk us on this lap. So this lap is more than likely going to be no good, even if we completely ace the next couple of sectors. A bit better through the hairpin that time, but we've got a bit of a kick of oversteer mid-corner. So all in all, the kart is behaving very, very differently to how we did in testing. Now, I wanted to save the battery and not record much of testing because we go straight into our heat races, and unfortunately that 34.8 is going to be the best we can do, which puts us 20 something on the grid. Admittedly, when there's 56 karts, that's not horrendous, but we know we're capable of far better than that. So lots to do going straight into the first heat.
What? We have to get wide, it's qualifying.
Alright, put it down then. Put it down. They're everywhere, isn't they?
Oh, right, okay, yeah.
Don't mind pushing it, it's getting the foot dry.
You got on the front of you? Oh, I'm going to be in the video now. If you get in the gap or something, just save doors, don't kill them.
Yeah.
That'll be the biggest thing.
Look at this.
Huh?
That was fucking
What are you on about?
bit of chrome.
Oh, just trying to blind everyone with the low sun, that's it. Tactics.
Blind everyone because you can't hear him.
Yeah,
looks
I can't
good.
hear him coming.
Might not look so good after this.
We'll see. Well, I mean, hopefully they're not going over the top, so if they're doing that, something's gone very badly wrong.
So just chatting to Monty there, one of the brains behind this event on the grid as we get ready for our first heat. Now, due to the sheer volume of entrants, we're doing our heat races in groups, hence why we're starting 11th for this one. So looking to go forward, generally speaking, qualifying has never been our strong point. We tend to really come alive in the races. Now running more normal tyre pressures. In qualifying we went a little bit higher just to compensate for the shorter session. So now back on a lower pressure, the kart should hopefully feel a bit more normal. A bit of aggressive tyre warming there, not what I would typically do, but it is getting a bit cold now. It's about 4 or 5 o'clock in the evening, and these boys like to go very slow on the warm-up laps, which is not what these karts like to do. Generally the slower you go, these tend to oil up. As you can see, the amount of smoke coming out of these exhausts, a lot of two-stroke fumes. It's definitely a beautiful smell if you're a racer. But here we go, getting right on the bumper of the 91, ready to kick off Heat 1 for Clay's the Masters. And it's a little bit of a slow stop. We had our foot to the floor, but just because we're going so slow and we're a bit too rich on the fuel mixture, we bogged down quite badly there. But it's no trouble, we're through the first couple of corners safely, just tucking in behind Richard Plummer, who is absolutely on form this weekend. Top job from Richard in the FSA class. Now we can see the shadows of karts lurking behind us as we go into the infield, and we do see some shadows flying past in the background, so I'm pretty sure someone's come a cropper there. We get barrels of understeer through these fast flowing corners. And it's very clear to me from this first lap that we just do not have the grip still, and our woes from qualifying are continuing into this first heat as we get a bit sketchy on the brakes, still a little bit cold. Need to bring these tyres and the engine up to temperature, and just focus on hitting our marks, clean laps. Now in 100cc, as we get Dan Street going flying down the inside, fair enough, he's pretty quick, so we can just tag on to the back of him. But as I was saying, 100cc racing is often a race of attrition. A lot of people break down, seize motors, you name it, everything you can possibly imagine falls off. So with 56 entrants, last year we narrowly missed out on the A final, and that was with a very unspectacular run, just keeping ourselves to ourselves and finishing really. Not that that's necessarily how I want to go racing. I want to be going forward, I want to be attacking. But I'm very mindful that just a couple of reasonable mid-pack finishes should safely guarantee myself a spot in the A final, because clearly we don't have the balance right now. The kart is not working to our liking. I like a sharp positive front end, and this is just a bit dull, a bit washy mid-corner to exit. And we watch through into Billy's, and we still can't really make that first curb. We can keep it reasonably tight, and we can at least, but yeah, as you can see through the chicane, we're just missing that entry curb ever so slightly. You want to be all over that right hand curb and then just run the second one. Now clearly I haven't forgotten how to drive, because earlier this morning we were looking pretty decent, but I'm really struggling, if I'm being completely honest, with the balance at this stage in the race. Barrels of understeer through the final corner there. Cutting to a bit further on in the race now, and we've just lost touch with the pack in front, which is very unusual. Normally every 100cc race we've done so far, we've been competitive, apart from our first weekend where we just bought the car. But now we're navigating this slow back marker, and that was a little bit too close for comfort as we slow it down, just parking it on the apex. Now I had to turn in there, otherwise I'm just going to understeer off the track, but a little bit sketchy there, just to keep us awake, keep us occupied in this sort of lull on our own in this race. And yeah, just feeling a bit embarrassed really, disappointed in myself for not really getting more out of the car. But yeah, clearly we've got some work to do, got some learning to do. Now, last year, as I was saying, I was pretty competitive at most of the events I entered, especially PFI, where we didn't have any testing and we just missed out on the podium. So I know I can drive, but up until now I haven't really had to change that much on the car. Even in high grip conditions at the British, it was pretty good and pretty much to my liking. And in this race, we're just going backwards, which is very unusual, and we lost another position to Edward Moore, and that's pretty much where we stayed. So a lot of thinking to do, a lot of data to go through, and you could see how at points in the track we were quicker on the old tyres. So you join me back at the room after day one at the Masters, and a bit of a mixed bag, unfortunately. Started off a few little niggles, just trying to dial the carb in. to dial the kart in, dial the engine in. Then we tried a new carburetor, so we tried a Baroni BF24 off Clifford, so thank you very much to him for that. And that was like a rocket, honestly. The difference between the IB and the Baroni is generally the IB is a bit more on a knife edge in terms of where you set the jetting, and it's a bit of a thin window. So if you're slightly off, you're miles off, you could be too lean, blow a motor, etc. Not very helpful for someone like me who's relatively new to 100cc racing. So we tried the Baroni out, that was flying. A few minor tweaks, and we actually set our fastest lap ever around Clay, which was not anything crazy. It was only a 34.9, but it was on dead tyres that I've no idea how many laps they'd done, to be honest with you. And the front right went flat as well, so yeah, really encouraging. Bolted on the new tyres for a quali, which was a really short session, so we upped the pressures a bit. Didn't really work out how we would have wanted. I think I was about 5th in group and 21st overall, maybe. It wasn't particularly great qualifying. Yeah, it was a mess on my half. I wasn't driving as well as earlier, but it was frustrating because the balance had completely changed when going onto that new tyre. And it's a completely different car. It's much harder to rotate it, sort of on entry and mid-corner, but a lot of that's probably just down to the fact that the track has evolved significantly. Track is gripped up, rubbered in, but hey ho, we're off for dinner now. I'm out in glorious Yeovil, so we'll forget about it. Well, we'll go have a few beers, maybe have a look through the data. Again tomorrow, it's as simple as that. We're going to try a few little things to try and alleviate the problems, to reduce the grip. We've got a new rear bumper on, as you will have seen earlier, so we're going to try and loosen that off, see if that does anything. Be the first time I've tried it on one of these karts, but yeah, I'll see you in the morning. So after a good meal and a few beers, it was time to regroup and go again on Saturday morning for the warm-up session. Now, we made a couple of changes that we're eager to try out. Actually going out on our race tyres here just to get a proper read, because we didn't have any issue on the old tyres. But as you see, Keith's struggling to unlatch the easy start, and he actually gets decked by, I think that was Paolo back there, but fair play to him, he styled it out like a champ. So yeah, we made a couple of changes. We've gone full width on the rear. Now we'd actually left it a little bit too narrow, which in the high grip conditions you don't really want to be doing, giving yourself too much rear end grip. So we've gone out wider there, and we've loosened off the rear bumper, which is something we haven't actually tried in one of these karts before, because we've always been running the narrower bumper, which has the exhaust cradle to it. So we see a guy picking the worst possible place to go slowly. So yeah, we go out here. It's a little bit cooler this morning, so it's not the most wholly representative session, but we're just going to get a feel to see if these changes will work, do a few laps, and then come in and save the tyres, because Clay is an absolute killer for the front tyres around here, as we get a bit of understeer through the long sweeping corners. But on the whole, I was a bit more positive about this session, had a bit more rotation in the car. That could just be because of the track temperature. As you can see, we can hold it very narrow to the second curb, do the swooping long right hander, and through the chicane we can get to that apex curb. So these are all good positive indications to me that the sap changes have worked. We go up for a move on Josh Wagon there, and yeah, going to do a few laps here just to get a feeling as the tyre pressures build up. We can see Cliff, the big red dog, Cliff McDonald behind us there. We're still not quite getting the optimum exit out the final corner, as Cliff absolutely rockets up to the back of us on his FSA kit, down into turn 1. That's Tyler coming out of the pits there through the chicane. Didn't quite make the apex, but overall the feeling in the car is more positive. As we see, I think one of the Birrells there going for a mighty send on Cliff doesn't quite make it happen, thankfully for him. But yeah, we're just going to cut a little bit further on into the session now, and Cliff has regrouped and he's going to go down the inside, and he's almost outbraked himself a little bit there. That's one of our strong areas, so he's done well to get it stopped, but we're just going to tag along behind him. Clifford is a good reference. Obviously we were battling with him at PFI just in front of him, so we want to see if we can be at a similar sort of pace as we go onto the start finish straight now. Running a little bit rich, it was a bit cooler. We just left the jets as they were, because the races are probably going to be a bit warmer. But yeah, as we go through the chicane, we actually get a reasonable run, and it's pretty much even Stevens through there between myself and Clifford. So that's pretty much a good enough indication to me. As we come through the hairpin, kart seems to release alright, That was enough for me. I came in shortly afterwards to save these tyres and get myself weighed. Now, believe it or not, I was actually a bit overweight.
Better? Right, I'll give him a push, I'll come back.
So checking the tyre pressure is really critical that you do this as soon as you come in before they cool off. And as far as I could tell, they looked alright. They'd come up evenly and it was time for heat. So starting again around the mid-pack in this heat, and I've got 2 pushes this time. Hopefully Keith is not gonna, well, never mind, I spoke too soon. I'm convinced that was deliberate. That was just too good the way he styled that out. But here we go. It's warmed up a little bit since our warm-up session, and we're hoping that now with these adjustments we've made, we can have a car that I can actually do something with. Understeer is something that's very difficult to drive around. Here we go then, up to the lights, and away we go. Not a perfect start, bogged down ever so slightly again. Alan Lamb is going to get in front of us. Funny story, he's the guy who originally restored the very car I'm driving. As we go through the chicane and the S's, it's pretty much managed to cut off any threat of attack from the outside, down into the hairpin. Nice and sensible. That's Martin O'Hara just in front of us, and he's pretty quick on his day himself. So again, we've got some people around that we can try and follow and see if we can pick up a few things from as the false start flag comes out, and we're going to have to go around again, unfortunately. So we get another shot, another bite of the cherry for this start. A little bit closer this time, get hit up the back. Looks like the pole man checked up massively because I just bogged down like crazy after that, and unfortunately we've lost a place to Richard Sturdy, and now that looks like Duncan is going to get past us as well. So yeah, that restart was pretty poor for us. We're going to try and have a look up the inside as they're very early on. The brakes didn't actually mean to go for a move there, but we bogged down on the exit. I suspect we're probably a little bit too rich on the low speed jet, but never mind. Through the right, huge understeer, and we're actually going to lose a position to Glenn Guest. Now Glenn is an absolutely superb peddler, so it's a little bit of a crumb of comfort that he's also down here with me. So we're going to try and use him as a reference as he goes flying around the outside of Duncan, or at least tries to, entering the S's. Let's try and tag along with Glenn, but we just don't get the release off the corner. And again, it's very clear that this is going to be a very long 10 minutes for myself, getting a lot of understeer, particularly into this infield section. Now if you're paying close attention to the front tyres, you can actually see a little bit of graining coming in, and that's just coming in from the front sliding. Now we thought, because obviously the track's rubbered in massively as Glenn goes carving up the inside of Duncan, that with all this extra rubber we probably had a bit too much grip. Now the thing with these retro karts is a lot of them are 32mm tubing. Modern karts typically 30mm, so it's a bit different to what I'm used to in all the Rotax racing that I've done over the years. As those will know me know, I've done Rotax for quite a few years now. As we close right up on the brakes there, clearly the brakes into hairpin 1 is one of our strong points. Matt Dobson knows all about that all too well. As we get Joe Holloway, and I think that was Owen Potter coming a cropper through the S's, that's going to gift us a couple of spots. So this is in the back of my mind all the time, that while I'm not necessarily making overtakes and going forward like I'd like to, I am at least making up places through virtue of attrition, and that's something to bear in mind. As Richard Sturdy battling away there up front, this is bringing myself and Duncan into the battle as we get a reasonable exit. Duncan flying along on the straight. It's worth noting we're one of the only pre-95 motors, and we've got a lot of overspeed, so we're going to go for it at the second half of the straight. That was very much my fault. I misjudged that. Didn't really have the front end to get it turned in, and overcooked it a little bit. So that's a frustrating mistake, not something that I'm used to doing. As we're now behind Mitch, who's also, we're going to go flying up the inside of him at the end of the straight, but we just have so much understeer. I'm struggling to slow the kart down, and especially with the amount of marbles on the exit. We've now lost a place to Clifford. This is just a bit humiliating for myself. I know I'm better than this. I know I can drive. But yeah, it's a combination of possibly overdriving, driving like a bit of a... Yeah, but clearly we just don't have the kart at all in the right window. We have barrels of understeer following Cliff through the infield. It's just painful at this point as we catch right back up to Mitch again, and we're just stuck in this awkward yo-yoing effect where I catch towards the end of the straight and then just can't quite make a move at the end of the second straight after the chicane. So yeah, you can see the graining on that front right is looking particularly angry now as we're coming into the latter part of this heat race, significantly worse than it was earlier. And that's because we're just sliding, especially through this long right. That's not somewhere where you typically experience such an amount of understeer. And I think this whole weekend we've just been chasing the kart. I've been trying to take grip away. See there, a clip of my tyres. No one else's seem to grain up in such a manner, so a bit of a warning sign to ourselves. We safely made it through to the A final, starting about 23rd. So with a big gap between sessions, we decided to throw the absolute kitchen sink at the setup, change everything. We went half caster, we went lower on the front, we changed the pressures, and here's hoping. This was a last ditch effort just to try and learn something, if nothing else. We've made it through to the main event, and you'll see from the gantry up there, it's a 15-minute final. Easily one of the longest races I've done up there with PFIs. We tried to navigate our way back into our grid slot, very chaotic towards the end of the lap. Yeah, Billy Thomas there carving his way through in possibly the worst place on the lap, but we come out unscathed. It's time for the Masters 2026. Let's go racing. As we immediately look to the outside of Billy Thomas there, and are we going to get the position? We do, just about manage to cover off any threat into the S's. That was very nice to get him dispatched nice and early on in the race. We're following Edward Moore now down into the hairpin, and just want to get through this lap, keep out of trouble, because it's all going to kick off as we head into the infield. There's Chris Jiggins there off, there's Richard Plummer is getting ridden on, and yeah, somehow we managed to escape all of that, and we've come out of it just behind Ian Turner. Now Ian is a very good peddler, he's a very respectable peddler, and hopefully we can tag along to him as Edward Moore lurking on our rear bumper now as we head on to lap 2 through the S's, and it seems like we can get a better run out of there than we did in the heat race. Still dealing with a little bit of understeer, but overall the initial laps seem better, and we're actually sticking with Ian here, which is funny because last year we were both competing for the last promotion spot in the B final. Edward Moore still there as we see someone going for a spin in the background. But yeah, we're managing to keep him at bay on the back straight. We're still struggling to get that front end into the hairpin as Richard Plummer to the inside into the horseshoe. Doesn't quite get it done, but a respectable attempt. And I love this shot, just seeing the amount of rubber flicking off the tyres and all the marbles that it generates. But yeah, Ian breaking away ever so slightly now, and Edward Moore has managed to close that gap down to ourselves. He's going to have a look to the inside, he's going to outbrake himself, we're going to cut him off on the outside. Richard Plummer is also to our right. We actually just catch his front bumper, and he clearly wasn't too happy about that because he very promptly spat his dummy out and fired us off, and that's just going to absolutely undo all of our good work off the start. We're going to lose 3, maybe 4 places, but thanks to this DPE race engine's waft, we're going to fly past Owen Potter. Looking at the replay here, we pretty much have our kart ahead at this point, so we go to cut off Edward Moore and it just clips his front spoiler, so a little bit unfortunate there. But we live to fight another day, now locked in the battle with Owen Potter, who's going to try and get us. But this second half of the straight, we just pull like crazy. So I don't know if he's just overgeared, but we weren't revving particularly high. So just shows Matt Dobson knows what he's doing with building these motors. And a reminder to go check out his channel, it's more tyre rubber. These tyres just get absolutely shredded around Clay Pigeon Raceway. And again, we're still struggling with understeer in the kart through the final corner, but Owen isn't quite able to get the run on us to get us down into Billy's. So at this point, the initial laps were better, but as you can see there, we're still just missing that entry curb. and there's a bit of understeer still in the kart. We're tagging along to Richard Plummer in front. Looking further ahead, there are absolutely no slouches in this race. As we go down to Billy's, and Richard Plummer looking for the move. He's going to dive to the inside in the S's on Edward Moore, and he gets the move done. Edward Moore's going to be slow on the exit. He's going to park it to the inside, and we're going to have to do the same to stop any threat from Owen Potter. And it's actually getting a bit feisty now here in this sort of mid-pack battle. Just tucking in, trying to consolidate where we are and see if we can go again and get Edward on the next lap. But the 247 now is up behind us, and he's clearly got a bit more straight line speed than ourselves, but not quite able to make the move on this occasion through the chicane. Do we get a clean run? It's reasonable. We're going to just hold off the threat for now, but it's only a matter of time as we're going to get done on the inside into turn 1. It's a bit unconventional spot unless you get a really poor exit, and I think now the damage has been done from the previous races. These tyres are finished, mainly the fronts. We're now going to get done by the CRG 55. Owen Potter still lurking there in the background. But yeah, it looks like whatever we've done, the chassis just isn't really responding now to any changes. Now, that probably is just because we've done so much damage to the tyres. As Owen Potter finally is going to get the move done. He's going to overshoot his braking ever so slightly. We're going to make him work for it, but thankfully, fair enough, Owen has got that position, and Alan Lamb now lurking right behind ourselves. But yeah, this was a bit of a concern to myself that the chassis wasn't really responding to changes at this point. So it's definitely something we need to look at. This is 100% a kick in the balls after all the months of prep and all the anticipation building for this race, and I can only apologise for the poor performance on my behalf. I need to do a lot of work to make sure I understand this car inside out, and so we don't get a repeat of this in the future, because clearly I know how to drive. I was perfectly quick in the testing, but yeah, here we're just getting understeer absolutely everywhere, just chronic understeer. And looking back, I think we were possibly chasing the wrong things. I think we were thinking the kart was too bound up with all the grip, so we tried to take away grip when perhaps maybe we should have gone narrower. It's all hindsight, but it's learning we can take into our potentially biggest race of the year. I'm not going to reveal that just yet. That will come in the next video. But yeah, I can only apologise for the poor performance. I want to be putting on good races for you guys, good content. And unfortunately, that's where we'd finish, in a lonely P17, P18. On paper, it doesn't sound too bad when you consider there's 50 plus karts. But I know I'm capable of far more. So just need to work harder. Congratulations to Tyler, who won the whole thing in his green jacket. Thoroughly deserved. But yeah, we've got some work to do. But yeah, thank you to Andrew and Monty for putting this event on. It's not too late, I believe, to donate to this wonderful event. But yeah, we'll regroup and we'll go again very soon. Thank you so much for tuning in, and hopefully I'll see you in another karting video very soon. Take care. Bye.